are live.
Welcome back to the BMXPERTS Podcast with my co-host guy, Kevin Wilson.
It's that way, dude.
Oh, my bad. Hey, we want to welcome Mike Rodrigues, owner operator of Crit Plate. Huge presence in the BMX community. Super excited to have Mike on. And Mike, thanks for coming, man. We always call ourselves the factory intermediates. We're not up there with the dirty knobs guys, but we're definitely making our mark, man. We're growing. So thank you so much for supporting us, coming on, and we can't wait to get into it with you.
Well, I thank you very much for having me, both of you. I do watch your podcast. I may not interact much. I'm knee deep down the studio, all crazy hours, working, designing, setting stuff into production. So I don't have time to interact much. But I do go back and I watch most times, and nice. Especially if you have an interesting guest that I may know and so on.
Right on. That's awesome.
All
hey,
right.
so we were talking just a second ago before we started recording, and you were talking about Jason Chang, and then So what were you going to say about Jason, former factory mongoose rider?
So with Mongoose, I started sponsoring mongoose companies offshoots, which is Bloom. I think it was 85 or end of 84, the NBL Grands, when Mongoose had that monstrous factory team. John Tomac was the B Pro, and they had so many top experts across the country, and they just disbanded it all and ended it. And then that's when they picked up Roop later on. I think it was Roop, Travis, and then only a few amateurs. I think it was Sam and Shelby James. But later on, but I sponsored the Blue Max program. I sponsored Dana Griffin, and it was Dana Griffin. Darwin Griffin. And
that's his brother. Dana's his brother, right?
Yeah. Darwin Griffin, and I sponsored who else was it? Kenny Amon, and then a few others. So no, I didn't do Brian.
Okay.
No. So 09 had some, I had some, and which was fine with me. Kenny Amon was my go-to guy. Being in Northeast New York and so on, he was always in where I was going and so on. He's just a great human being and awesome rider. So that was a good fit. But Jason, from being Hawaii, he only had that sponsorship to help promote selling the bikes through the naval bases, the military bases. That's where Blue Max was sold, was through the military bases.
Right.
So that's where that brand was. And but he really was. I may have given him a plate or two, but he was riding more 09 than anything else. So and that's totally fine.
I got Kevin had a question, Mike, before you came on. Hey, Kevin, you want to ask him the most basic question?
Let's start at square one, Mike. What is a crit?
All right. So
is that like a grit on the East Coast? What is a crit?
No. It's actually it's Southern California. So
okay.
Beginning of 1980, the first name for my number plates was Rad Plates.
Okay.
And I made a stencil, and it would spray it onto the plates and so on. And my first local bike shop, first ever retail dealer, was Northeast BMX Supply in East Greenwich, Rhode Island. Very famous at the for our region back then. Guy Harry Van Leuven, awesome guy. Was carrying my plates, and he started selling them. He said, Mike, if you start picking up national momentum, that probably Joe R. Manufacturing, which had the rad pads, may give you an issue with the rad thing. So at the time, I had a 1980s Scott Clock model Robinson, and Bobby Woods and Scott Clock at the time were my next set of pros. Before that I had a Raleigh R10, Rampart R10, so it was Toby and Jeff Patima. But then it was Scott Clock. Vans did a full page ad of both Bobby and Scott jumping in the air and clicking their back wheels, and it said "Getting Crit." And
that's where I know what he's talking about.
That's where the name came from. They early on, our industry tried to use the word crit as in critical, like rad and radical, and it never took off except for Crit Plate. So I will claim the fame before the criterium things from road and 10 speeds and all that shit. Crit number plate since 1980. has been crit.
That explains a lot. And I like critical. If you would have stuck with critical, that would have been sick.
Yeah.
It's the first number plate. Actually, hold on. First number plate. I made this one and four others for me and my 4 other neighborhood buddies that we first started racing with, and and they and it came off of that Christmas of 79 into 80. I got a Haro factory plate, and for Christmas, and before I even put it on my handlebars, I put my NEBA, New England Bicycle Association numbers on there, 4 numbers across. Got the X-Acto knife, peeled off the lightning bolts, did the factory thing from the magazines, put the lightning bolts back over on top of the numbers, made it all trick, put some stickers on there, then went to go put it on my handlebars, and it wouldn't fit. So I had to cut the fucking plate up. So I mangled the plate. I was pissed, and I sat down with a piece of graph paper, a ruler, and a pen, and a pencil, and I came up with the first shape of crit plate.
Yeah, that was going to be my question, Mike, is like what inspired the shape of the plate? Because your plate is, in my opinion, it's almost kind of a throwback because of its rectangular shape.
Yep.
But you also have those tabs on the side.
Yeah.
Kind of gives it its own flavor, and it's. Is it just to fit on the bars? Is that what inspired it? Or
Well, no. What it actually was and is. This is from 1985 to no, actually 84. This is 1984, reversible. 1984 to 1980, end of 86. And if you look at the shape, crit plate was the first one that can fit on any handlebars without having to cut it, because it didn't have any of that shit on it. I invented the Velcro and nuts and bolts system, so you can put your plate on, undo the nuts and bolts, flip your plate around, because we were racing multiple sanctions. Just myself, I was racing on a Saturday morning 2 ABA tracks, and then running back to Rhode Island and riding NEBA or NBL. So and that was made it very famous and usable because it was reversible. And Dale Holmes talks about that on the podcast I did with him, where back in England, they used to be able to flip it around for multiple sanctions.
That's awesome.
But it was designed to fit any number plate, any handlebars. So that was the mini plate. Look how big that thing was.
Mike, can I interrupt your thought process for a second? Now, this question I was going to ask much later, but I'm going to ask you now because you're kind of on the track of it. I know you notice nowadays with the modern day racing, as you see behind me, there's a number plate behind me here. Yep. And you see the size of it, it's much smaller than what we used to run in the 80s. What do you think that's a trendy thing for the kids that want to run the plate small?
I'll be blunt honest on the current 3 manufacturers that their plates look the same. They're all the same characteristics, the same airflow crap. It's useless. It's a big, heavy plate, regardless of how light it thinks it is. The little kids, it's dangling all over their bars. Doesn't sit right. But if you look at a crit plate, the shape on it. So this crit plate that I designed in the 1980s, which still holds strong. This is today's pro plate. That's 1986's pro plate. That's the size and the difference in the plates.
Yeah.
But if you look at the shape, and when it's on the handlebars, when wind hits the plate, the wind's going to hit blunt force every number plate. But after it hits the plate, where does it go? Well, with all those other plates, with all those airflow shit, it slows you down, it gets into your body, and it disrupts flow. Here, it disperses over your shoulders, sides of your body, and on both sides of your legs. Now, that's true. That's basic aerodynamics.
Yeah.
And this flat piece of plastic will prove in a wind tunnel more aerodynamic than the current plates that are out there right now.
That's awesome. So, do you think that trend's going to stay with the smaller racing plates now, as opposed to the larger ones? Because I kind of miss that look.
I don't see it going backwards. Unfortunately, they're putting side plates. If they just had a proper size number, or they, now they're using the transponders on all the amateurs now at USA BMX Nationals and so on. So either use something electronic, or have something on the handle on the sleeve of the jersey or something where it has a number. But putting all that clunky stuff on your bike is just stupid. I still don't make side plates. I'll rather have a sticker of your number on your frame than versus having a big stupid plate on your $1,000 frame.
Yeah, I kind of wonder. I think that's the USA BMX rule for nationals is to run the side plate, and I don't think they care on local events or state events and Gold Cups, but nationals, I think. But I do see riders still not running them. I agree with you. I don't see the necessity of it all.
I believe the rule is, I could be wrong, is that if you don't have a side plate on and you go to dispute a tie at the finish line, if you don't have a side plate on, then you automatically don't get scored, or however it is. I don't know.
Oh wow!
I believe it was for that. But I mean, come on, it's so follow the leader now. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Hey, Danny, do you know why the Haro plates never fit into the handlebars? Do you know why?
No, I mean, was the brake lever in the way?
They were formed off of red line V bars.
Yeah.
Were they really?
Yeah. Bob.
Oh.
Who was it? I forgot the gentleman's name. It escapes me. But when they were making the factory plates with Haro in his kitchen, they would form the plates on a pair of red line V bars. That's why.
Oh, got it.
Well, Robert Cardona.
Robert Cardoza, yeah.
Yeah, Cardoza. Robert Cardoza, yeah.
All right.
I got a heavy question for you, Mike. Sorry to hit you with this so early in the.
No, it's all good.
All right, so recently I heard Greg Hill on the Dirty Knobs podcast, and he was pretty upset about a 1979 national number one plate that he should have got in 1980. So there was two in a row.
Yeah.
And he mentioned in the podcast, he goes, "I'm just going to contact Mike and have him make me those plates."
Yeah. So with that, and true, I am working on that project for Greg. And if you look back at the history, I can't dispute Greg's claims, because you look at some of the stuff that Oz put in the magazines about trashing Kevin McNeil and so on, who didn't have a major sponsor, who didn't have that marquee, and BMX in the 80s, the factory level, the national level, you had to play the game, you had to work it. There was more parents who, of top riders who ran the show and worked with co-sponsors and, either got money for the kids or got product than the kids did. And with me personally, when I would sponsor a race, when I got comfortable and when I got into the national scene, I would find myself on the infield of all major nationals, and I'll be standing next to Steve Guyberson, Wendy, Oz. Well, Oz was kind of already getting out of it, but you name it. What else? Who else was it? John Kerr from BMX Plus. I'd be out there in the air. Hey, so and so's come up on the gate. He's got my number plate on. Love to get a shot of him. And I always there's Mike Savage. Can you get a shot of Mike? I was always there. And if I was sponsoring a race, I was up in the announcing tower making sure those announcers were saying the crit plate name as much as they could throughout the race. So, but you had to work the parents too, just as much as the kids. So I had more of a relationship a lot of times with the parents that did the riders to get them to ride my product.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So in saying that, going back to your original question, it was you had to work at it, and I'm sure the Pattersons did a lot of work to get in there with their business and their advertising. With BMX Action Magazine, Most Factory Magazine, advertising dollars spoke. So if you advertise and you did full page ads and so on, they're going to do what they can for you.
I think you and I had a conversation through Facebook some time ago, and you had mentioned that you didn't really have to run ads because the riders appeared in full-page race photos.
So I learned quickly that when you hit up the advertising department at BMX Action Magazine, and I still have the original contracts and paperwork, that if I wanted to do a full-page ad, it was like $2-3 grand.
Wow.
A month. And I'm like, I don't have that, or I'm not going to give you that. So I found the way to go out and sponsor the riders that were getting in the magazine. So I would sponsor early on in '85 when Greg wrote for Redline. on his cruiser, since they didn't make a forklift plate for the cruiser, he was on my payroll to ride my mini plate on his cruiser, and I paid him monthly. MCS Bicycles, 85, Matt Harris and from Pensacola, Florida. Bill, oh Jesus, well, Bill from down south there in Florida. They're the two MCS pros. They were on
Is it Bill Madden? Am I saying that wrong?
Bill Madden. Murray, Brad, Brad Birdwell, Rusty Cable. Those guys on Murray were on my payroll. And
Did you make the Murray plates in green to match the color?
Fluorescent green was for Murray.
Yeah,
and neon orange for Whitman's Bike Shop out of Ohio.
Those were
That's
dope. Yeah,
so,
those were those Murray colors. The lime green colors were sick, and that crit plate looked awesome.
Let me just look real quick over here. I thought I had a comic book. So if you look in 1986, every DC comic had a full page ad in the back of Murray, Team Murray. Had the two freestyle guys, and it had Todd Corbett and Brad Birdwell, with their crit number plates on. Mm-hmm. At the time, I was paying Todd, I think it was either $75 or $100 a month to ride my number plate, and Brad was like $50 or $75. It was like a $25 difference. So for $175 for a month, I was getting millions of DC comics all over the world with my number plate in the back of it.
That's genius. That was genius.
Think about this, Danny. Okay, so Mike, maybe you can help us out with this. We recorded an episode last night. We were talking about what amateurs and what these guys were making when they got a picture in the magazine. Remember that, Danny?
Yeah, absolutely. The contingencies.
Whatever. I don't know if that's what you're describing now, but what was obviously there was a difference if you got a regular picture, you got a cover, you got a centerfold or a one page, right? It was all different.
So if you got the cover of BMX Action magazine, I think I gave you like $2,500.
Nice.
And if you got a full page ad, a full page shot, it was $500. If it was a double spread of featured you with my number plate on it, I think it was like $750, and then it went down. I'll give you a classic example of oops, you didn't get any money. Sean Texas, riding for Factory Eagle Snacks. He shows up at Snipes on Norco in California for a pro race, and he comes strolling up. Hey, Mike, with his Eagle Snacks uniform on, little crit logo, my number plate, wearing 09 gloves and a Haro visor.
Oh,
I'm like, dude, what are you doing? All right, he gets a nice full color shot, and he's asking me for money, and I'm like, well, go see Bob or go see Owen over at 09. Because I'm not giving you anything. But the money was to be had. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a great question, Kevin. You got one of my questions.
Shelby James rode for Mongoose, and we rode for Murray, and then Mongoose. He was on my payroll. There was times I was paying him to his parents using savings bonds so he wouldn't lose his amateur status.
You asked that, Kevin. Yeah, because Kevin said last night, because I was telling him these amateurs were making more than the pros. Yeah. And then Kevin said, doesn't that jeopardize their amateur status?
Isn't that the whole premise of being an amateur?
Yeah.
Money.
In the 1980s, from 1980, 81, probably 81 on, if a pro had stickers on his plate and patches and stuff on his helmet, he was getting a contingency from each of those entities monthly.
See, and what's funny about that, Mike, is as just a local racer, I tried to emulate what they were doing. Yeah. So what they were doing to get paid, we thought was stylish. Oh yeah. I'm gonna put these stickers all up the top of my helmet. Yeah, because we're just
you're taking your Oakley goggles and you're putting our AME goggles and you put them on top of you and you wear them all the time, even if you don't use the damn things, Right. Oh, I got a question for you based on the contingency thing that Kevin brought up.
did anybody really just hit you hard, like break the bank? Like, God dang, I got to keep paying this guy.
No, I was fortunate that some were on their pay was it, and there wasn't contingency. Some it was more just photo contingency. So I didn't have to pay much, but there was I mean, I am proud to say I keep on going back to BMX Action Magazine that Mike Savage, writing for my company, was on the front cover, the inside front cover, a 2-page spread photo sequence of his cruiser, doing a Savage snap, and several other race pictures without me ever spending a dime in BMX Action Magazine. I think I'm the only, except a little bit later on when like Mad Dog and they started getting real loose with the way the factory thing was when Gork and all those guys and Oz was really out of the picture in late 80s, early 90s,
Was there a time when you were developing your product and you were seeing some success that you wanted to venture out into other product lines like clothing or parts and things like that?
That was one of my problems being. Well, I'll back up a little bit. I'm from New England, from Rhode Island, and growing up in the '70s, I rode skateboards. I had the first run of OG Dogtown boards. I rode pools. I rode ramps, street. Me and my buddy, and we wedge ramp in front of our house and all that junk. And I found BMX in summer '77, coming along, pushing my Dogtown board and coming upon the Schwinn 7712, the big tractor trailer and so on, at my local park in Warwick, Rhode Island. And I flipped up my board, carried it, walked through the pits, and I can still, like it was yesterday, all the chrome, all the colored anodize. It was Webco, it was Redline, it was Schwinn, it was it was just amazing, and I was hooked. And so going back that far, it really resonated, all of that little factory look and the way everything was and so on. I always had on the helmet, like you said, the same thing. It looked really cool and emulate what you saw in the magazines, because it's not like today where you go through social media and it flows through every 2 seconds and you forget about it. You had a magazine that you sat there for 30 days. And between sitting on the toilet reading that thing to wherever else you did in school behind books, by another book, you studied that thing and you emulated everything that caught your fancy. You were just like that.
100%, man. I'd mentioned in other episodes that I would copy everything because you get the magazine like you said, and that was the one I was going to read until the next one came out.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'd go to the old issues just because I got tired of looking at it. But man, I copied everything. I copied sticker placement. I did everything.
Yeah.
I'm like, Billy Griggs is running red Vans. I'm going to run red Vans. It was it just goes on and on and on.
So when my ADHD expansion there, when I was going back to in regards to New England, I was into all these California sports that here in the Northeast was a fad. What are you doing? Still riding that little kid's skateboard? Why are you riding that little BMX bike? That's just a fad. When are you going to get a real job? When are you going to get I played ice hockey till high school, all that. But those traditional sports didn't do anything for you but keep you in shape. Or gave you some type of drive and initiative. But they weren't going any further than your high school or maybe college if you get that lucky. But the mentality of the Northeast was. And even my number plate company, even my own parents who helped me 24/7 and everything I did to make me successful, still can understand that it was a real business. I'm like, my mom's like, oh, when are you going to go do this? I'm like, Mom, I just got a new distributor they're selling 2,000 plates a month. What are you talking about? Right? So it was always in New England, from trying to get financing, trying to get an angel investor. It was non-existent. So it was always an uphill battle, and especially being in New England versus Southern California, that's a world away.
Yeah.
So, the only thing good about New England in the Northeast was that the states are so close, and the big boom of 81, 82 and on, that I could hop in my parents' big station wagon full of bike parts that I would sell, like a little bike shop, and my number plates, and in 15 minutes I can be in Massachusetts. In 25 minutes I can be in Connecticut. An hour and a half I can be in New York. 2 hours I can be in New Jersey. An hour I can be in New Hampshire, or an hour and a half I can be in Vermont. So when every single state had 5, 6 tracks, when the classes were top 40 for state championship, including nationals, or top 20, and then that top 20 was strong. As I hawked crib plates and went from state to state and track to track, and picked up a factory team and promoted the product. By the time that fever and all that just took and went west, there was nothing stopping it. It was just so much behind it from the East Coast, from the Northeast, that by the time I got to California, it was a steamroller. And
that's amazing.
And I want to give kudos to the late great Linda Dorsey, the famous national announcer, when the National Bicycle League also made its way West Coast. Linda Dorsey was instrumental in regards to bringing crib plate with the NBL to all those tracks. And as I still talk to legendary track operators and past track operators, the Garcias, who else was it? The Mrs. Diaz, who just got inducted into Hall of Fame from Las Vegas. So those are all, I was in their wheelhouse early on, 80, 85, 86 on, with the California state number plates and all that. So and by the time being in New England was a plus. But also, if you even look at all the stars that came out of the East Coast and Northeast, they're almost non-existent in BMX Action Magazine, which I will keep on using BMX Action Magazine because that was the marquee, and also the Hall of Fame.
Was it because the BMX Action was based in Southern California that? Sorry, Kevin.
I'm next.
Yeah. Do you think that was a disadvantage because they were basically in Southern California? Is that what?
No, we all flocked to Southern California.
Okay.
Visually, verbally, we talked like it, we spoke like. What else? Where you came from? You were Spicoli, You acted like you had the vans, But Kevin, you have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Kev. Sorry.
I got a bunch of them, bro. All right, well, let's go back to 1980. This is the shit that turns me on. Okay, you're sitting in school or whatever the case may be. You're not happy with Haro. You're not happy with whatever's out there at the moment, and you think, okay. I'm gonna do my own thing. I'm gonna make my own plate. So people might think that you went through many different designs. You did focus testing. You asked your friends, or you took a sample to the track and asked everybody's opinion.
Fuck no. I designed what I wanted to. I thought was gonna work, and I shoved it down everyone's throat. and everyone liked it. I was very lucky.
That's question one.
All right.
Question two is, what does a piece of plastic cost in 1980? What was your production cost on a number plate, and where was the break-even point for you to see substantial savings? Was it 500 plates, 100 plates, 1,000 plates, that type of thing?
So with me, this is Crib Plate's 45th year in business, on and off with the pitfalls of bankruptcy and other people fucking you over, divorce and putting things on hold for a while. But 45 years, pretty much, in every decade, I've had a major presence throughout.
Okay.
And I was fortunate enough to come from a family that being an entrepreneur was kind of fostered and kind of nurtured. I started off getting my chops into sales and talking to people when I was 5 years old. My hardworking parents had a carnival business. They had two games. One was a four-sided pyramid table with glass bowls with water and goldfish in, and you had 6 ping pong balls, and you'd throw the ping pong ball and bounce around, and you win a free goldfish. So that was our proprietary stand in the 70s and early 80s, and that was our thing. And so I was 5 years old with a little coin apron on. My brother Joe, who was 4 years older than me, and my dad and my Italian grandfather Jerry, three generations. learning how to hawk people in, 6 balls for a quarter, and how to work the crowd, and to get the feel of things. Learning the business of, we have a big feast coming up, an Italian feast, and it's 3 days, and we're projecting so many people of winning so many goldfish, and we're going to the goldfish supplier, the local pet store, and importing 3,000 goldfish, and how to keep them alive, and so I learned all the maintenance of business early on, just in the family business, but most importantly, it started to build. And when I went to Roman Catholic grade school with someone with ADHD back then, that was terrible, because they'd beat the shit out of you. Then in front of the class, they'd call you stupid. It was brutal. The teachers were brutal. All right, and now I go to the Roman Catholic high school, and I was done. Totally done. I was already in business. I was selling tons of my bike shop stuff. I was making bank, learning the ropes, on the road all weekend long, all throughout New England, then go back to friggin' school on Monday. And so I talked to my parents and my dad, and I said, I'm all done with school, Dad. I'm done. They don't know, and he's like, I get it. They don't know what this ADHD thing is. They're still trying to, there was no medicine back then. There wasn't Ritalin and all that shit yet. And so he goes, I'll tell you what, Mike, you can leave school. You can do your business and all that there. You have to promise me 2 things. You go back in a short period of time, you get your GED, but most importantly, I'm going to help you find a company to work with that you'll be able to learn the plastics trade hands-on. You need to be humble and learn the processes by somebody else. You need to learn how to take direction so you're not an asshole to your own employees. But I'm still an asshole. It's the Rodrigues trait. We're hard on people. But so my dad was a plant manager for a corrugated box company in Rhode Island. And back in the late 70s and early 80s, Rhode Island was the costume jewelry capital of the world. Everything was made in Rhode Island. All over the world, purchasing agents would fly into Rhode Island and get all their bookings for the year. And it was all made. I mean, my neighbors had job shops on the basement setting rhinestones with the glue and all that shit. All over Rhode Island, there was basement and living room, shops making the jewelry and so on. So I learned production that way. I learned how to weld and glue and bend and drill and learn processes and inventory and all that. And so I didn't need it anymore. 2 years of doing that, and I picked up 2 or 3 distributors. I was done, and that's it.
What was the cost on a number plate back then?
So what if I told you that my costs now are almost as close as what they were back in the 80s? It's under $2. Probably more of $1.75. Probably more like $1.25 to make a plate back then. $1.50. Because I think distributor cost was like $6 or something like that. But what if I told you now, and again, I've been competing with Taiwan since 84, 85, when all the big manufacturers started going over there. So I've been sharpening my pencil using only USA made components. The nylon nuts and bolts are molded and extruded in New Jersey. The Velcro USA has two types of their Velcro, some made in China, some still made in the USA. All my Velcro today still is made in USA. My plastic bags, the plastic crystal clear film is made in Rhode Island and formed by another company, a Ziploc little thing. Everything from the vinyl, in northern Massachusetts, there's one of the world's largest vinyl converters that's been there since the 80s. I've been working with them, and they a special adhesive for with extreme heat and extreme cold, and it doesn't crack, it doesn't slide. And so everything I use has always been USA made.
What year does 1 year stand out that you said you sold the most plates? It has a
yeah.
Is it current or is it old?
I would say 1987 going to 1988. He was probably the biggest. When I went from let's see here. When I went from these 2 plates to, let's see here. Let me move this out of the way.
I could see.
When I came out with this
That's
in
the one.
'86, with the interchangeable stickers for the corners and so on, the end of '86, the first plates that came out were the 1986 NBL National plates was the first run I did with those plates. And all 2,000 of those NBL National plates in '86 were a prototype because I didn't have the compound. We didn't have my injection molded didn't have the compound right as far as how I wanted it to sit flat. Didn't have the mix of soft versus hard with the polyethylene polypropylene mix, and with the red this was done by hot foil stamping, and at the time no one hot foil stamped this big, so I had to have a special hot foil stamp tool made. And if you look back at the 1986 NBL Grands, only the plate and the crit was red and that was blue. That's the only thing I can colorize on both sides. So
I just noticed something, Mike, and not to interrupt you, but there's no sticker in front of the plate like a Haro plate. It's painted. It's painted, right?
Yeah. So you used these interchangeable stickers to actually make your colorway.
Oh, okay.
So I had 13 colors. There was infinity of color, and I had panel covers for the middle for gold.
Yeah, because the panel covers for like Haro and 09.
Yep.
If you take the numbers off too many times, eventually it starts to wear out.
Yeah.
And you end up having to strip the whole panel cover sticker off.
Yeah.
Then you just got to, yeah.
So that's in '86. I mean, 84 to '86 or whatever it was. That's what we all use. These were made originally. This was screen printed originally by Dilly Screen Printing in Orange, California. Bob Dilly at the time was doing everyone's decals, frame decals. He was doing several different number plate panel covers for companies. And I was put through the industry. I forget who it was. I don't know if it was Greg Hill's dad or somebody. He was doing Star Bars, leading me on to that. But for about a year or so, Dilly Screen Printing was screen printing all my panel covers for the front and back of all my pro and mini plates.
Okay.
But back then, if you look at some decals, some panel covers, if it's very dull and there's no sheen to it, that's just a vinyl or just screen printed. If they put a clear coat on it, that was a shellac. I just found a plate that's actually cracked down the middle. If you bend the plate now from a plate from back in the day, the panel cover will actually crack because the shellac over the ages turns to solid, turns to rock. So the plastic is still pliable, but the decal will fail because of the clear coat shellac we used to screen print back in the '80s.
Nice.
What's your favorite one you've ever done? What's your favorite design?
Good question.
Are they
like your children, or can you pick one out?
Yeah, I can pick one out. How about this one here? One that I was only on the market for like 2 months, 3 months. This was when I had the business at a joint venture with MCS Bicycles in '88, and the two new owners at the time, Lawrence and Leslie from South Africa, bought the business to, I think it was from Jim Levan, who had MCS at the time. He bought it from the S's originally, and they were my biggest distributor. They were manufacturing bikes in Florida with Ron C. and Greg Esser right there in their headquarters. And it came to, and your question earlier was about other products. I was losing some ground, especially with sponsoring teams with 09, because I didn't have wrist wrap gloves, I didn't have pad sets, so I didn't have visors. I just made number plates, the core of a racer on a team. So my joint venture with MCS in July of '88 was for them to invest into Crib Plate. Me move down there with the business, and I would design new product. They would put new infused cash into the business to start expanding the product line.
Okay.
But unfortunately, matter of only a month down there. Now my contract back then was $450 a week salary. It was 10% contingency on everything that we sold through their distributorship. Every distributor retail, I earned 10% every single month, paid off the top, not after cost. It was 10% of the top. It was fucking mega. I had a brand new car allowance. I had an apartment allowance. It was like awesome. But they tried to violate it over and over again and tried to take the business away from me little by little in a matter of not even 6 months. So,
oh, wow.
So it got to the point where on one Friday, I had my brother Joe fly down from Rhode Island. He rented a big box truck. After work on Friday, I emptied my apartment out in Tamarack, Florida, went back to MCS in Pompano, took everything Crypt Plate out, drove through the weekend back to Rhode Island, and sat in my attorney's office on Monday morning like, we have a fucking problem. And it got to be, they were paying GMAC for my car. I was back, going through this battle. Next thing you know, GMAC repos the fucking car in my parents' driveway. And so my dad, who busted his ass all this time trying to help me and so on. We just built a brand new house in '86. My parents moved in, my grandfather, all that, and now he's like, all the money right now was all still going to Pompano Beach, Florida, from all the stuff being sold. I sent all the stuff back, and now the attorneys are going back and forth with this stuff, and now I have no revenue. All the money's there. Crypt Plate's blowing up, and I'm not getting anything out of it. I'm screaming, going crazy, and my dad's like, "Hey, Mike, let's find something how you can get some additional revenue. We'll get your car. You'll get your car from the repo man before it goes to auction." And we had, I think it was 2 months to get the car, or a month. 2 weeks later, they sold the car, $18,000 Eagle Premier ES car. They sold it in auction, and they sold it for like $9,000, and I was on the hook for the rest.
Was it a Corvette?
No, it was an Eagle Premier ES. They had the DeLorean engine in there, aluminum engine and shit. It was a pretty cool car. But
what's your favorite plate, bro? I want to see it.
All right. So this one, Nick Long debuted this 3 years ago at Louisville, Kentucky, sitting on the infield with Barry Nobles. And he wasn't supposed to show anybody yet because he's been testing products, looking at some of my old stuff, because after the Grands, he was going to start riding a Crypt Plate for that next year. And this was the new plate I designed in 1992. It's called the Wedge Plate.
Oh,
so
nice.
Reversible, slides back in, and it had different panel covers.
I like that.
That is sick.
I like that.
So that was a plate that came out for the NBL Grands in 1992 NBL Grands. It came out for the Christmas Classic, and then I shut it down after a big blowout with the NBL, with the NBL, losing my track and all that there, and walked away from BMX for 16 years. So that barely sold the day of light. I think I probably had only the major bike shops that are at the Grands and Columbus, Ohio, that stocked them, and that was it. So if you find those are rare as can be.
You make going into business in the BMX industry sound so appealing.
No, it's not appealing.
I'm like, why would anybody do this, man? It sounds like a pain in the ass.
So I'll tell you what. When the owners, those owners at the time of MCS were trying to take the business away from me, I had a great contract, all that stuff, and lost a car. My dad is heartbroken. He can't help me financially. He just can't. The stress of my dad and my parents were like insane. And this was end of '88 going into Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
First week of January, my dad passes away unexpectedly. Struck in with an aneurysm in the yard. He comes home from work, puts his lunchbox on the stoop, was raking up some dog poop in the yard, collapsed. Neighbor helped him in the house, started going to convulsions. My mom and him go into the rescue. My mom's like, Mike, stay here, man the phones, come to the hospital later. And 3 hours later, my dad was in a coma. 3 days later, he was gone. Wow. So my dad's gone. There's my mom in a brand new house that they moved into '86. I got this note for the car that I have no car to pay for, and I ended up selling Crit Plate to MCS against my will for not even a fraction of what it's worth or what I deserved or should have gotten. I wanted it all up front. My attorney was an asshole. He was down there playing golf with his fucking two idiots in Boca Raton, Florida, instead of being a killer down there. And and said, Mike, just, with all your situations, you should have it monthly versus one big lump sum. Like, fuck no, I want it all lump sum. Because if there was a no compete clause for so many miles, I'm going to fucking California. I'm gonna kick their fucking ass in the airplane business, But no, it was monthly, and it was okay, but it wasn't nowhere near for what it should have been or what it was worth. And that was in 1989, and in 1991 when the industry went down and there was no more factories, the magazines were closing up. Everyone's wearing those Jenko jeans and wallets, and the seats were being dropped down, and the race industry went down to nothing. MCS was crime and poverty. Oh, we can't pay you your monthly thing. But there was a clause inside the purchase agreement that if they couldn't afford to pay, I could take the business back. So in 1991, I legally took the trade name and everything back. And I sat on it till 1992.
That's amazing.
How old were you when all this happened? When the Titanic went down the first time? How old were you?
So I started Crit Play and when I was 14 years old. 15 years old.
Crap.
So do the math. I was 20 something, early 20s.
22.
22, yeah, around there.
That's insane.
That's a shit to deal with. When you're 20, 21, 22 years old.
Right.
I was worried about what bar I was going to go to. I wasn't worried about someone stealing my company.
Yeah,
right.
But and then that will it does help when you have a family that's supportive. They don't understand it still about BMX and shit, and but they still were supportive. And I was always fortunate to have parents that really sit down and talk to you and nurture you and understand. When it came down to drinking when you were a teenager, and I'd tell them, yeah, I drank tonight, or I drove home with one eye, and out there. Or a bully was bothering me. I didn't
have that nurturing environment, bro. I don't know if you saw the last
So I was fortunate enough that I was always taught that if you fall down, you get back up.
Nice.
But it also helps when you played hockey from age 8 until high school and being a small statured defenseman that you banged bars all the time and you got leveled and you got back up and you got back into the fight. So that helped also too. But
if you go back for a minute, so when you got started the whole process to produce your number plates, did you receive a lot of negative influence negative feedback from the big guys that were already well established in the number plate game?
No. What was good is, since I talk the talk, and I'm really good on the. I feel like I'm very good on the phone talking to people, and I sound a lot older than I was at the time. To give you an example, when Redline let him go, and I think it was '83. Well, John Cruz, there's only 2 pictures in existence of John Cruz riding my number plate, and it was this plate right here.
Wow.
And I paid him, I think it was $50 a month to ride my number plate for a short period of time so I get back. I think get back on to Patterson or so, wherever he went from that point on. But
you moved on to Patterson.
Yeah. So fast forward to 3 years later, '85. I'm in Southern California. I'm at a race, and Scott Bryhop's there, and everyone's walking through, and here comes John Cruz, and I say hi, introduce myself. He's like, "Shit, I thought you were much older, from being on the phone than I was seeing in person." So I was always fortunate enough to be good on the phone, and pretty much get what I want.
Was there any riders, Mike, that you absolutely wanted but you couldn't get?
Yeah, and there's one that I lost I was heartbroken forever. But he's one of my best friends. That I just talked to him the other day out of the blue, just talking to him, and it could have been 10 years of not talking to him, and he's awesome. And we all have BMX friends like that you don't talk to in a while, and you pick right back up. There was there was, I never had the pleasure or the honor of having Stu Thompson ride my number plate. Never.
Wow.
So that's one. And if you look back and then guys like the Team Diamondback, Harry and Eddie, those guys were staunch Haro guys until Haro wasn't doing it anymore and 09 was pushing more money, and they're good in that way. Stu was always a Haro guy until he, whatever. So there was legions, you were allegiance to those Haro 09 and Crit. I started off, working my way from East Coast, West Coast. So it was the MCS guys, it was the Blue Max guys, then it was Mongoose and Murray, and then would build from there.
Okay, that's pretty awesome. Because what was it? The factory team that you wanted to grab too? Like say, oh, I want GT, I want the entire firm.
Well, which is great is GT. Even when they first started using the dyno stuff from Bob Morales, I had the fortunate pleasure of getting to know Doc Schofield and Mr. Nelson. And when they came back east to race NBL, they came across my number plates. And if you'll find a GT poster from like '85, a massive poster with Danny Nelson and Jeff Schofield riding a Crit mini plate.
Wow!
Because it fit their bars better than a dyno plate. And
there you go.
So then I had Deanna Egwoods right on my number plate.
That's badass,
for Kevin Hull for I think a brief moment. But yeah, so I was very fortunate that a lot of people liked my product. The functionality was what I designed it for, because I was a frustrated customer that wanted to make it usable for everybody, with the versatility of reversing the plate, to have the nylon nuts and bolts, to the plate that was always stood where it needed to be, easy undoing the bolts and flipping them around, the nuts and flipping around and making it, all that there, so it's like the jackknife of a number plate, a jackknife of a number plate.
With the boom of freestyle in the mid '80s, did that impact your sales?
No, but it impacted the BMX racing world and the industry as a whole.
It did. Yeah.
If you look back at BMX companies from the start, and it's not there anymore. But it was all homegrown, original designs. Someone in the garage welding, doing something. So many manufacturers in Southern California. Elf, Pentagraph did his own bikes with Elf. Free Agent was doing their own stuff. Mongoose was already offshore. GT became the mega factory in the USA. GT became, which was amazing. And so there was so many companies making their own shit. MCS in Florida, Thruster in New Jersey, Profile in Florida, TNT later on in New Jersey, and so on, and so many other companies. That there was so many manufacturing companies, and they had their own little design thing. Proud to make it, proud to have it, and they were all influencers and innovators. And as soon as everyone started going, all the big names big companies started going offshore to Taiwan and importing stuff, it changed everything. Yes, they had a better profit margin, but now you had a forecast. You had to you weren't making on demand. You had freestyle brought 17 color combinations of everything. Yeah. And if you're a bike shop and a manufacturer had to have 17 anodized different colors, and the bike shop had to cover all of them. And in a lot of the smaller businesses, they weren't educated business people. They were mom and pop in business that didn't have a financial education. So a lot of businesses, when their business got so big and they're paying a top pro racing BMX, $30,000, $75,000, and now you have a freestyle guy, paying him the same amount of money. It starts to take away from market share and dollars in the bank, and what you can sell. So there's a lot of factors involved, from offshore manufacturing, the amount of colors that had to be made, produced, and inventoried and sold, to now salaries on both sides. A lot of businesses, tanked.
Yeah, because if you think about it, Kevin, and I don't know if you remember, but the early freestylers were using the race gear, including number plates.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they were still using them, but although they would just sticker them all up, wasn't traditional numbers on there. That's why I was kind of wondering, because I know I saw the impact that freestyle had from a racer's perspective, because the moto counts dropped. Once freestyle got really, really big, and all these kids just wanted freestyle bikes.
So I remember in the early '80s, all my neighborhood BMX friends and local regional New England track guys, that when a new trick came out on BMX Action magazine, all the races were doing little bar endos and try to spin your bars around and curb endos and sticking your foot in the front of the tire and doing that shit and trying to do a 360 and pedaling backwards. As a racer, you did that shit. You go out on trash night and you're bunny hopping. Besides kicking out and knocking trash cans over, you were bunny hopping over them.
That's awesome, Kevin. Do you have a question? I keep bogarting. Do you have a question for me?
I was just trying to. Who distributed your product in the '80s, and was it hard to pick up a distributor? Did you have to find other companies to find a distributor?
I was fortunate enough that the product, as it gained momentum and the sales numbers were there, that picking up a distributor went pretty well. Early on, and like say 83, 84, probably 84, you probably had besides myself, you had in New England, there was Competition Cycle out of Bristol, Connecticut. His name was Jim Parrott. He was a profile distributor and a whole bunch of stuff. And Mike Savage worked for him and rode for him. He was a pro. Mike Savage was a profile national team rider, which he got some free shit and all that there. That's how my association there with Jim being a distributor and sell them all throughout all the bike shops. Another one. Now this is a motocross link. And one of my early distributors were from Southern California, and it was what's his name there, McGrath.
Jeremy McGrath.
Jeremy McGrath's parents had a so-called distributorship. It was actually a little trailer shack at Ascot BMX, and they called themselves my distributor. So when I rolled in there in '85 and brought my whole team out there to race and go up to Country Kids BMX, it was called, and to roll up there, I'm like, this is a distributorship. So, but it was places like that. Then it was MCS had a killer distributorship with their business in Florida. Charlie Danishak in Ohio, his distributorship was a monster who really was instrumental in '85 and up until '88 of bringing Crip Plate where he went. And
what about Everything Bikes? Did you go through them?
Howie, I didn't meet Howie personally until Scott's 40th anniversary in 2010. Unfortunately, so no, I had Gene Roden from Tip Distributing carrying my plates. There was several. In England, it was Graham at Hot Wheels BMX would import Crip plates by coming over the United States. Go visit Charlie at DK and fill his suitcase up with Crip plates and bring them back to the UK back then. And that's how the early guys like Dale Holmes and all those guys had Crip plates.
Did the profit margin change when you, at the end of the day, when you went through a distributor, or if there was someone bought it?
No, I was fortunate enough. I was fortunate enough that in learning business that I always had at a minimum of 100% profit on everything. And it was actually more like 200% to the distributor. It was 300% to the bike shop, and it was 400. It was like 600% to the retail or more. So no, I was never struggling for money selling a number plate, regardless.
I was just kind of curious on your end if you made more money selling one off your website, not a website, but from yourself, or if you sold to a distributor, if you made more money each way, or you didn't care, you just want to sell the plate.
I push more distributorship, because if I push more distributorship, then more dealers will because they're hawking the dealers will have them in the bike shops. So that's where I push more. And I look back. I never went to a trade show. I never went to Interbike. I never went overseas to international bike shows, and that hurt me, to this day. Not going to those big shows, but I had distributors that were repping my products there either way. So,
Danny,
Yeah.
if you never, dude, if we should have been to an Interbike, bro. I used to take my kids out of school for a week, and we used to go to Interbike to Vegas. It was sick, dude. It was so much fun.
Really?
Let me step away. Let me step away and grab a product. Remember, I mentioned when I moved down to Pompano Beach with Crip Plate to MCS's complex and had my own little shop in there. One of the first products I came up with there, I'll show you. I have to bring it over. Let me get the bagged product. But I also have some loose stuff, and I'll tell you a story about that. Give me 1 minute, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dude, I used to take when I owned my bike shop.
Right.
They gave us free tickets, right? So I could have like 5 free tickets every year, and I'd take my kids and their friends to Vegas, and dude, they would just go ham on the whole place. Dude, they'd take T-shirts and everything's free. All the BMX distributors, all the BMX comes. It was so much fun, dude.
All right.
Yeah,
so
that sounds amazing.
in July, August of '88, the guys that bought MCS bicycles also bought from R.L. Osborne, Bully and Hammer. So they had those two brands as well. So Hammer had the shin guards, the neoprene shin guards at the time. Well, they were all being made in Florida, and so I have privy to going to the shop and seeing the guy that was making the sweaty guy, dripping all the neoprene, cutting the stuff out and selling them. And so my first new product was called Crit Underwear. And I had a brand. I started branding Crit, and went from Crit Plate to Crit, and it was for you to be you. So it was the number 4. It was the U, the 2. For you to be you. And the first product was a Crit Underwear, and it was a forearm elbow guard that went under your race jersey, or you can use short sleeves.
Nice.
And there's the packaging there. That's OG packaging.
So we did make other products besides number plates.
Well, it only was short-lived, because as soon as I had that legal battle and I sold Crip Plate to them in '90, they rolled it into Hammer. So you will see all those freestyle, all those guys. Even Todd Lyons is doing a wall ride, and he's got one of these, my elbow guard under the Hammer brand. So when I took Crip Plate back, the business back in '91, right. I still retain the rights of all this. I just never reproduced them.
I remember that Hammer product.
And fast forward in Rhode Island is G-Form, the protective company that does all the neoprene shit.
Oh, I got another question to shift gears on you, Mike. I know that you've got Nick Long backing you right now, and I think that's an excellent person to endorse your product, because Nick's got even though he's Vet Pro, he's got a massive presence on social media and at the track. So kudos to you for that one.
Thank you.
And do you have goals to get your plates on some Olympic bikes in the next round?
So I'll tell you a little story going back to when I stepped away from BMX from 1996 and came back in 2009.
Okay.
And I lost my track in 2006, thanks to Bob Tedesco fucking me over hard. I lost everything I had. I owed money to the dirt guy, the electrician. There's so much my ex-wife and I owed for being a track operator that it just sunk us. He fucked us over twice. From the 92 grands, he never paid for his 2000 number plates to, and that's one fiasco that he tanked me on. And then it was when I became an NBL track operator, and he just, it was a bad thing. And so I walked away from the sport. Throw all my shit in my beat up car, because my other car was gone, and walked away from BMX until 2009. And so when I came back, I did some market share. I went to a local race, went to a bike shop, and I got every single handlebar that was out there, and I traced every handlebar and shrunk down crit plate from, this size to, where are we here? So it went from pro plate in the 80s and 90s to the 2000s. And this was my little micro plate from the 80s.
Wow.
It's today's pro plate.
Yeah, it's like a standard plate for today's standards. Yeah.
So after doing that and moving just keeping it crit versus crit plate and bringing the logo down where it is now, that's today's plate. But I went after the industry hard. First, I looked at, there was no more bike shop per se, where you hawking the bike shops and teams. It was that was gone. It was only a few distributors selling BMX stuff, and it was more consumer direct, which it is now. And,
like Amazon and stuff like that.
So I had to look at the market. Toby had THE still at the time. He didn't get into box yet. Tangent was doing the ABA stuff, and you got a plate that broke at the end of the year from Tangent. The way the plastic they gave his state plates from and all that there. He may have changed it now, I don't know. But the Tangent and box was, those two big guys weren't that big at the time. And I did what I could by first looking at the BMX landscape and would go after first all of the mom and pop number plate companies that were making custom number plates on all the bikes and all the teams. So I went after that part of the business first, and went after their market. And then next it was getting as many factory teams to use my product. And a lot of people don't know this, that leading up to into 2014, I had a brand new injection molded crit plate in the works that was cutting edge, with some really state-of-the-art stuff, new fastener system and all that there. And Toby had his first box prototype. It was at the Grands in 2014, I think, either 13 or then 14, and it was only a rapid prototype. You can still see the lines from the 3D printer and all that there on that. If my marriage wasn't going the way it was going and where I was as a human being at that place, at that time and space, and losing it all, and just couldn't even function as a human being, and being so distraught and really bad part of my life right then and there, that I would have finished up my new number plate. And I tell you this now, that if my home life wasn't where it was, and I was firing at all pistons at that time, I would have had my new injection molded number plate to market before the Grands. And all that I had, I think it was either 5 or 6 of the top factory rod teams already using my number plates, including the top 2 teams. I would have signed them to a 2-year contract where they weren't using anyone else's plates for the next 2 years. I would have stopped Toby dead in his tracks at that Grands. Box would never took flight the way it did.
You're right.
And doing that, and then when I had all the, I had John Sawyer, all the Answer, S Squared, all those guys, Renan, they all rode my number plates. All the top factory their teams rode my plates. And I remember a conversation with John Sawyer when I was about to fold it up and put the business on hold, going into filing for divorce and stuff. And John's like, I'm thinking about coming out with a number plate. He just brought in Michelle to do all this retail and bike shop stuff and start building lines for distribution and so on. Michelle Singer, and he goes, I'm going to bring out a number plate. I'm not going after teams. We're still using crit. We're still promoting you. But in a matter of a short period of time, I was out. I was done. He brought his Answer plate in. Tangent stepped up, and the Tangent plate, new plate came out. So it's Toby, it's Tangent, and it's Answer. And I'm in no rush to get back into that tripod.
Okay.
I don't care. 45 years in business. I care about the legacy of the name to continue. To my concern right now, what I started in 2022 a sister company for Crit Plate called 401 Made. We do race jerseys again. I'm back making racing jerseys out of that brand. I do racetrack awards, and my fiance Kathy and I are on more of a philanthropy path than having every kid run my number plate. Sponsoring balance bike programs, beginner league programs, you name it. We're giving to help. Our awards program last year, we gave over $19,000 off of already competitive invoices for the Tracks Awards to help them to do more for their ridership. And trust me, 10 years, 8 years post-divorce and giving everything up, I sure could use that 19 grand. But it's nothing to do about that. I don't give a shit if every team is right on my plates. I have good human beings right on my product right now. I have Nick Long, who my involvement with Nick, and I told him right from the beginning, even if you phase out of competitive racing, I want to do whatever. I want to be involved and help sponsor you and be involved whatever you do. He is such an amazing human being. Him, his wife, and now Lou, his baby, his beautiful daughter. What they do for our sport, the money they raise for the lack of non-existent pro purses ever in our sport, to and even to paying back to the amateurs, I will support Nick to the day I die, and regardless of whatever he does. So
That's awesome.
It may not be more financial. I give Nick tons of product, real number plates, a lot of promotional stuff, and he gives it back tenfold as well.
What would it take for you to get something like Chase BMX to run Crit? What would that take?
That would never happen. He makes that shitty Insight plate.
Oh, so that's is that their product?
That's their product. Yeah, that's fine. He has Chase. He has an amazing company. He's built it to such a global presence of quality and backed it up with all his teams and his product. What a great Christoph is a great businessman.
Yeah, Chase is basically what GT was in the 80s. They're like the king of the hill right now, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, to a certain extent. Box has his stuff everywhere because he sells it directly to the consumer and gives you discounts to be part of a Box team and all that shit. But no, I'm not concerned about. With Huffy. I'm so proud to have Ethan Popovich, who is an amazing amateur going into the next elite and a future Olympian. What a dynamo Ethan is. If you watch him race, it's just incredible. I sponsor guys like Tay Thomas with Team SRT out of Arkansas. I have George Andrews, who used to ride for Jim Buchanan's S-Squared Answer team back in the middle 2012-13. His team, Team Mangler, I sponsor them. On New Jersey, and out of Long Island, I have the Corner Marshal guys right on my number plates. I have a couple of Rhode Island teams that I sponsor, but that's it. That's all I care about is helping a little bit, getting the product out there slowly. I'm in no rush. And when I do come out with a new plate, things will change for everybody.
There you go.
If somebody wanted to check out your plates that are available, or they want to buy a plate or check out your
Facebook,
jersey, where do you want them to go?
Crit Plate on Facebook.
Your website?
Bike shop. The website's dead. I never liked having a website. It's static. Yeah, you can put videos and do whatever. I would prefer you to go to your local bike shop, because if they carry a BMX parts, then Jeff DeVito with JD Supply is one of my distributors, and you'll be able to get them there.
There you go.
Yeah, so you're like you got a big presence on Facebook, so you're saying that we can get a hold of your product there?
Yeah, you can, for anything from custom jerseys to team stuff to custom team plates. You have and now with awards for track operators and so on, it's just crazy awesome. Very blessed.
That's awesome. What would it take for? Because I noticed for the Grands, they got ROC before the Grands, and when they do the Race of Champions,
yep,
they're all running the same number plates.
Yeah.
So how does that happen?
So when I So when I until my exit full time at BMX, because my divorce in January of 2015, up to that point, I was making the Saturday night. It was the what do you call it, the five oh it was a NAG 5 challenge. So
There you go.
the
Yeah.
top 5 amateurs of every age, all the top 5 amateurs, I was making number plates for the NAG 5 challenge.
Nice.
So they all had crib plates on, regardless if
Yeah.
they had to take them off the next day to race whatever they had to race.
Right.
But I did the Olympic trials in 2012 at Chula Vista as well. So the 6 remaining men all had a crib plate on the bike, which was really cool.
That's awesome. That's awesome, man.
And what's really cool about that is that since I wasn't an official Olympic sponsor, that my logo could not be on my number plate. But if you know anything about crib plate, the shape is
Is the logo.
the name.
It's like a Nike swoosh. You know exactly what it is.
Yeah. So I wrote a letter from my hotel room in Chula Vista, in San Diego. I wrote a letter to each of the 6 competing, Olympians, Olympic hopefuls. And the letter, and I put it on a little hardy board. I emailed it to Sir Speedy on the way to the track. They mounted it to a little hardy board, a little easel, and I presented an extra number plate that I gave them so they keep us a memento, and this letter. And this letter said, basically said that, as you push your bike up to the starting hill, you may think that you're by yourself, but you're not. You have your crit number plate that is strapped to your handlebars, that's made in America, that it took that little piece of plastic and decal and Velcro, it took over, I think it's like 800 people, from logistics people to the UPS guy to someone, sweeping the floors at a factory that made part of my components, are behind you. And it's all its history and it's all its might, and we're in a battle too against USA versus China and all that there. So it was more like a kind of pep talk kind of thing, that they weren't by themselves. They had that crit number plate that USA made, crit number plate attached to their bars.
That's amazing, man. Amazing. Oh, Kevin, I got a couple more questions. I don't know if you have anything.
No, are we going to go for you want to just stick with the questions today? Dan?
Yeah, we can just do that, because I think it's more interesting talking to Mike than.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can keep up. Are you good for about another 15 minutes, Mike? You all right?
You got me for another half hour trying to get back and get production into orders into production for awards. So. All
right, no problem. I think I had one other here. It was in your opinion, would it get? I'm sorry. Let me start all over. With the whole surge now of old school BMX racing, how we've got Frogtown and Dirty Fest. Is that breathing new life into your product?
No. Yes and no. I when I brought the business back in 2009 and came out 2010, 11 full time, I had every Tom, Dick, and Harry hit me up for whatever I have for old shit. A lot of these guys would befriend you, they're your buddy, and you give them something that was very unique or very priceless, and with the promise of, if they're ever going to get rid of it, it comes back to me. And next thing you know, you see it on Craigslist and you see it on Facebook, or and it's like, what the fuck? To give you an idea, this plastic right here was die cut in 1985. I found an original stack of them, still plastic strapped, in my mom's basement where my old factory was, up in the dusty corner. And when Scott Bryhop had his 40 years of BMX in 2010, I took the original plastic from 1985, duplicated the panel cover, and old school with SC and all this 40 years of BMX stuff, and made that, and also a new school mini crit plate to match that, and gave that to all the winners for the old school new school race and stuff. And being Scott who he is, Scott was trying to sell them instead versus
Wow.
and selling them for like $300 or something. I'm like, what the fuck, Scott? Scott being Scott, and chasing him for money. That is 2010 thing. And but anyways,
that leads to a question, Mike. I keep interrupting you, but
well, let me finish on this path first, and then we'll go back to Scott or whoever else. So fast forward to 2022, the first Dirty Fest. I made the award number plates, which are these right here.
Those are sick. I remember I've seen those before.
Using the same 1985 original plastic. So when at the end of the day, I'm handing out the podium set up, the three stumps that everyone's standing on, and Jason Richardson won first place. And I walk over and go to hand the plate to Jason, and I said, just so you know, your brother Kareem, when he rode for Blue Max, he rode the factory Blue Max number plate I made him was of the same plastic batch I'm handing you right now.
Wow.
So just imagine that from 85, Jason, Kareem running my number plates, factory Blue Max, and then handing a replica of that with the same plastic in 2022 to his brother.
That's amazing, man. Amazing.
So,
was there throughout your history in the sport, being a business owner, entrepreneur, who did you like working with and who did you not like working with, if you don't mind us asking?
I don't think I disliked anybody. I raced competitively up until probably 83, 84. Doing really well. My best year was 1982. And I got more of a jive and the rush of competition, counting how many crit number plates were on a starting gate at a race versus Haro and 09. And that was my racing. So, to give you an example, when I was one of the founding sponsors that helped bring the NBL Christmas Classic to light during Christmas weekend, which was a beautiful event. We'll go down in history as one of the best events in BMX. And I remember being in the infield, and 09 was my nemesis back in 87, 88. And I remember Owen was the number plate guy for 09, and Kevin was the clothing guy who went away playing dolls and shit after. But it was me and Owen always at the races and competing. And I remember at the infield at the one Christmas Classic, I think like the second Christmas Classic, we're sitting there, and I think I made like 15 expert and counting how many plates there were, and crit plates versus 09. And one kid got second major factory team, and what's great is that was the end of the year, so people can sign new contracts. Thanksgiving was over, so the ABA was over, the NBL was over back in Labor Day weekend, so now it's all you're looking for new rides and shit. And so I remember running over to that kid's team space and talking to not only the parents but the team owner, who I already had a great rapport with, knew, and signed them to a deal. The next day, he shows up on the gate. He's got my number plate on versus 09. And then next thing you know, it was like that type of competition. Even when I would sponsor the NBL Grands in Louisville, Kentucky, there's times I'd walk around with the AME gear bag with crit plates in there, the scissor and little stuff, little things to make plates up on the fly. And I remember guys like Rick Palmer or Todd Slavic, where I would in line as they're going up for the pro main or whatever, or semis, handshake a deal of offering so much money a month, taking off the Haro plate, ripping that 09 plate off, throw it in my bag, and then make them a crit plate. And next thing you know, gets a full page, 2-page spread or inset picture right on my number plate. Stuff like that was really cool.
That's awesome, man. That's all I got, Kevin. He hit everything so well, man. I have no more questions, man.
I'm gonna close my whole. I'm sold, bro. From now on, I'm on crit plate. I'm on team crit plate. But it appears to me that you're the last guy stand. I mean, right? It was 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010.
Yeah. So So,
right?
so,
Like,
so,
the ratings
so,
are low, but
for
you're the man.
so OG original 80s companies, there's only a handful with original owners. There's only a handful.
Like 09, I think
Yeah,
is right.
09 just came back, and
Yeah.
I've always had a lot of respect for Owen and 09 in the 80s and the little bit of 90s. Then they left because they weren't making all the money and they got away from doing number plates and got the BMX industry. But I do not respect him now. Hearing Kevin's podcast with the Dirty Knobs and hear him say that during COVID, when Kevin, Owen would call Kevin, he was in the fashion industry, which is very successful in the fashion industry, is saying, man, we're selling so much of our old stock. There's so much money to be made. And off they went running to make money in BMX again. And with their factory team that Kevin is in charge of, he's been burning bridges and stiffing people left and right. That's not me. I speak from my heart. I speak from my heart. I give you my soul, and when I shake my hand to do any type of interaction with you, you're getting my lifeblood. You're getting me as a 14-year-old kid making the first number plate, and I'm in it for not. I'm not. If you don't realize now, whatever decade you've been in, BMX isn't the moneymaker. You're not going to be a millionaire in BMX unless you're someone like Toby who keeps on taking from someone else's big international money and starting another company up and then leaving that one in wake and starting other shit with other people's money. Then you get money. But no, I'm not in it for the money. I'm in it for the love of. When I first fell in love with BMX, when I was a little kid with my Raleigh Rampart R10, and it was raining out on a Saturday, me and my neighborhood buddies would have a mixture of helmets on. They get at the local automotive store with a handmade pinstriping and goggles, and wear our leathers and go trail riding in the mud and stuff, and emulate what you see in the front cover of BMX Action magazine or Super BMX or BMX Plus or Bob Hanner, and you made those motocross noises and so on. That's the lifeblood of Crip Plate. It's bicycle motocross.
Nice.
That was a great place to stop, man. I love that. Yeah, that's a good club.
And
well, Mike, it's my pleasure to meet you, bro. And thank you so much for letting me pick your brain or letting us pick your brain. It's been fabulous, man. I'm totally stoked that you had the chance. We had a chance to talk to you, man.
Yeah. I just want to add really quick, Mike. Normally our interviews don't go this long, and we do trivia and all that. But man, you're such an interesting guy, man. I just had to keep asking you questions, so I apologize.
There's so much more, dudes. There's so much more that we can talk about. There's all the list things.
Can we bring it back on sometime, Mike?
The travel stories with Mike Savage and I going across the country, and the antics of him and I. I do want to give a couple of shout outs. First off, I want to give a shout out to my family. I want to give a shout out to my 3 boys. I went through divorce. I gained sole custody of my 3 young teenage boys at the time. So it was just me and my 3 boys from 2016 forward, doing as a single parent, shutting the business down. Now, Crip Plate was a monster going into up to 2014. Money was good. I was selling jerseys. I had 198 race programs riding my number plates across the globe. I think I had like 90 doing my jerseys across the globe. So it was good up until it all imploded on me with my marriage. And I put it on life support. I made plates for Sarasota BMX, my local Woodland BMX track in Northern California, and we continued sponsoring Mike Savage. He kept on going all over the world doing his international Mystery Man BMX thing. But I like to show again my parents, my 3 boys, Ryan, Kyle, and Sean, who are my lifeblood as well. My fiance Kathy, who's an amazing woman, who has allowed me to continue being me unconditionally, which is monstrous. And she's a beautiful soul. And I can't wait till we continue seeing where our future's going together, as far as marriage and all that good stuff. So it's in writing here. So it's in video that's in stone.
That's it.
And my mom, my mom is still around, and my brother Joe and my family and cousins, everybody. Nieces and all that. I appreciate everybody. We're a great family, and I also want a shout out to Mike Savage, Curtis Bland, my old school guys, Kenny Pasco, so also my old school guys that ride for my legacy program. Also my new young guns. I sponsor 4 or 5 riders, pay their entry fees, do all that stuff like old school used to be, and good human beings. I also have now state programs across the country, going across Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Connecticut, New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, Missouri, let's see, Indiana. I have Illinois and Arizona, who just in 1 year came across, and doing it. And they're all good people. The message I have is, if you want to be involved with the Crit brand, it's not always about winning. It's about being a good kid, have a good family structure, positive reinforcement, and you going out there and racing your race for yourself and work on your dynamics from your start to your first jump to your turn, and who cares what place you finish in. I want you to continue building your confidence. I want you to continue being a good person and treat everyone fairly and have good sportsmanship. I care about nothing else. Winning, winning, as we know, fades away instantly. It's the legacy you can leave behind that has meaning to it is what I'm about, and that's it.
Awesome, man.
All right.
Yeah, if you got anything coming up in the future, Mike, with any product development, things like that, please come back, man, and we will promote it for you all day long.
And Danny, when you go do a magazine and you're doing it, hit me up when there's a bunch of Crit Plate stuff in there, pictures. Hit me up before you go live, and I'll give you some insight to that. All right? Because there's so many stories, and I'm like, dude, he doesn't know anything. He doesn't know.
People do that also. They don't know anything.
I had the pleasure. I had the pleasure also of sitting with Dale Holmes and doing a verbal podcast. It was all audio, no visual. And Dale was thorough from the beginning right through everything. You're all over the world, and so that was very informational. This was as well. Our great friends and my brothers, those Dirty Knobs, their game is a little bit different. They turned my interview into a drinking game. So every time I said Bob Haro or MBL, they'd all take a drink. So by the time the end of the episode, everyone was all smashed. But I appreciate all of you. I appreciate what you guys are doing. It's well needed. Our history needs to be brought forward. The ruling sanctioning body who golfed up the other sanctioning bodies can only do so much of preserve our history, and there's so much of it that's not told. And there's growing up in the 70s and 80s racing BMX, a lot of those founding track operators, bike shop owners, parents that were instrumental are either dying, gone, or about to be. And we need to capture all this stuff, and we need to be able to get as much information, because these new school kids don't have a damn clue about their origins or about anything. So
exactly. Well put.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, Mike.
Gentlemen,
I gotta my dog's barking, man. I gotta go see what the hell he's barking about.
All right. Gentlemen, take
Thank
care.
you very much. Appreciate it. We're gonna say goodbye to you, Mike.
All right. Good night now.
Thank you, man. Have a good night.
Thanks, Mike. See you later.
Take care. All right. Bye now.
Dude, man.
Great.
Awesome.
Hey, we went way off our format tonight, but man,
I'm cold, dude. I'm on Team Crit Plate now, bro.
Yeah, I got to get a Crit Plate because I felt bad. I got a box number plate hanging behind me, and and I got 2 box number plates here, and I got to tell you, man, that was super, super interesting. I just didn't want to stop asking him questions, and he obviously has a lot more to talk about, so maybe we can get him again.
I was struggling to hear him. For some reason, you always have the good audio. So when he said if somebody wants a Crit Plate, don't go on. He wants you to go to the bike shop or his Facebook page.
Yeah, he says he doesn't do websites. He says you got to go to my Facebook page to get information on his product. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, there you go, everybody. If you like this episode and you want to support Mike with Crit Plate, you know where to find him. You heard it directly from his mouth. He really has a passion. He cares for the sport. So if you want to support him, which I'm going to, go check out Crib Plate on Facebook and at your local bike shop. Danny, I got to go, bro. How can people reach out to you, or how can people see what you do when you're not with me?
Danny Pena, BMX Racing on YouTube, BMX Magazine reviews, BMX Race reviews, all BMX content all the time. Please like and subscribe, man. I'm struggling.
Don't unsubscribe. Subscribe.
Yeah, subscribe. Yeah, man. I keep going up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. And I'm getting close, dude. And you were saying your dog was barking. Mine was barking for like the last half hour.
Was that your dog or my dog?
You keep hearing that. Rah, rah. That's my dog downstairs in the kitchen.
That was my dog.
Oh, dude. She's like been barking. I got her in her crate. My daughter went out for the night. So I'm like, she said, I'm going to put MJ in the crate. And I go, okay. And she left. And she goes, you want me to put her outside? I go, no, because it's going to get dark by the time we're done. And she was been barking, but I've just been like, then the cat's down here scratching my leg, trying to get my attention. I'm like, leave me alone, animals.
Dude, this whole time I thought it was my dog.
Yeah, see? That's MJ.
Wow, dude. All right, well, hey, dude, this was an interview that you facilitated, and let me just say that you did a great job, dude.
Thanks, man. That was a good one, dude. I'm sorry we didn't play but I was watching the clock and I'm like, man, we're pushing an hour and a half, and
it's 3 hours, dude.
Yeah, but we'll make it up to him.
For some reason, I say this all the time. Can we bring you back on? But for some reason, I have a sneaky suspicion that he will be back on the podcast.
100%, because we told him anything you want to promote, man, we're all about it. And yeah, definitely. I need to get a Crib Plate, man. I feel guilty.
All right, guys. Everybody, thank you very much for joining us. If you'd like to support the podcast, BMXPERTS we do have a website. Check it out. You can grab a hat, a shirt. You can subscribe here. You can subscribe there. And what else? You can watch videos or episodes there and here. Yeah.
Don't forget, the cold weather's coming. Get a BMXPERTS hoodie.
Oh, dude, the hoodies are sick. Thank you very much for reminding
me. I need to give me a couple of hoodies, because right now it's still hot out here, man. It was 80 degrees today. So
this is the first time you've ever asked me for merch, bro.
Yeah, I need a hoodie. I need a couple T-shirts, man.
I've been waiting for this. I feel like you finally asked me out on a date.
Yeah, dude. Hey, I wear my hat, but I need to promote.
For people out there, Danny's never asked me for any merch, and I keep wondering. I go, should I tell him, hey, dude, you should wear a shirt or whatever? So I've been waiting for this day. So we'll get you set up, bro.
All right, right on. And then I'll be seeing you. We're gonna probably shoot for maybe Sunday again, and Kevin and I just we did a really fun episode yesterday. That should drop. Did you want to go Wednesday night on that? Did you decide?
It's dropping Wednesday. It's already recorded and on YouTube waiting.
All right, my friend. That's a wrap.
This will be on Saturday morning.
Excellent.
Going up against the competition on Saturday, which I don't want to name.
Yeah, we got a lot of stuff drops Saturday. I got to get one going tonight too. I'm going to film tonight as soon as we're done.
All right, guys. Everybody, thank you very much. Until next week, the track is closed. Peace out.
Peace out. See you later, Kev.
All right, man.